What's up, Starcraft fans? Today we're doing the tier list for Violent Knight on Void Launch. Brian, let's hear the mutation.
Void Launch is the map where we have to shoot down Amon's shuttles. There are 7 waves of shuttles, which increase in size, number of prongs, and escorts. We cannot let more than 4 shuttles escape, otherwise we lose the game. Gifts spawn every few minutes. You must capture them to get rewards. If Amon gets them, he gets rewards. Your units take more damage the more things they destroy.
Alright, we have Joni and Edwin home in the call with us today. How are you guys?
Doing well.
Doing
Yeah,
well.
cold but good.
I wish I was cold, because I have a cold. I wish I would rather be cold than have a cold. Does that make sense? Anyway, Edwin
That's very
home.
fair.
How do we rank the commanders this week?
It's mainly about the naughty list. Gift exchange is pretty much, just the same difficulty of pay attention to it with any commander generally. Naughty list, though, if you rely too heavily on hero units, it can become quite difficult because the stacks do carry over after the first kill once you're revived. So it's not like you just get a nice reset whenever you lose a hero. So people who are too reliant on heroes are going to have a little bit of a rough time. People who rely too much on just big strong units like Han and Horner say might have a rough time as well. So that's the main consideration.
Okay, what do you think, Edwin home?
I agree with me.
Oh, sorry. I'm sick. I am also sleep deprived.
No problem. No problem.
What do you think, Edwin home? the second one was on purpose. I was trying to see how you would react. Julie, what do you think?
I'm going to change my screen name. It'll just make everyone's life easier. Yeah, I mean it's basically naughty list punishes hero/hero type units play. Gift exchange, I think, is there is some tricky stuff that can come out of gift exchange, bearing in mind that Amon will take every third gift. So there is some really tricky stuff that can come out of it, and there are certain commanders that will deal worse with that sort of particular roll of the dice. So everything ET said holds up, and gift exchange may come into play in my book on various sort of specific instances for specific commanders.
Yeah, okay. I definitely believe that Furnace of Commanders, they will detest killbots. Speaking from not experience playing soloing as someone who is hero based. Let's begin. Abathur, where do we have him?
Abathur is decent this week. He's quite good this week. You shouldn't have too much trouble getting out your initial Brutalisks. They're not going to be as good in the later game, but they'll help carry the early game. And then Mass Swarm Host doesn't particularly care about the naughty list too much. It still hurts, but mass free units you should be able to overwhelm. And obviously he can get to gifts quite easily, so you should only have to deal with a little bit here and there, like you said, every third gift, because you can just deep tunnel your Brutalisks there and kind of just keep them on gift duty, and you should be fine. So I didn't quite have him in S tier, but I did have him in A.
A tier. Okay. What do you think, Joni?
Yes, agree with the sentiment. I think there is a shout here to potentially look at playing P1 and sort of ignore his hero unit styles, sort of Brutalisks, Leviathans. Having said that, they are very useful for packing a punch in the early game. So if you lose them later on and want to switch into simply mass swarm host, that's completely understandable. I think there is also the argument to be made for playing P2 in terms of just seriously enhanced mobility, getting around the map to get to gifts. Where Abathur, I feel, particularly shines this week is that when you look at some of the gift exchange possibilities that Amon can get, Killbots, Bane's Scourge, and overcharged shuttles, actually, I mean, they are a particular nightmare. for some commanders this week. I think Abathur deals with them pretty well, actually. I had Abathur somewhere between S to A. I do think, particularly given that gift units give biomass, there's some nice little wins there where you're not simply having to deal with like totally free units. I do think there is potentially an argument this week for Abathur to be in S tier.
What do you think about S tier, Edmund Home?
Yeah, I think I'm fine with that. Yeah, he is pretty good. I was debating back and forth on the two, so that's fine with me.
Okay, let's put Abathur in S tier then. That was one of the debates of all time. All right, let's move on. Alarak, where do we have him? Oh, prestige wise.
So
second or first, both are good, or even no prestige.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Alarak.
So I think there is probably little debate that Alarak's going to really struggle this week. He is a glass cannon commander anyway, and Naughty List is going to give him a really, really bad time. The mothership's going to be pretty useless after a bit. It is very chonky, but Naughty List, even when you see that the max stack of it is 6%, that makes a surprising amount of difference to how quickly even very chonky units go down. I personally think there may be an argument here to be made for playing not P3, despite the fact I don't think he's going to make it into a tier whereby we give a prestige. But I do think there is potentially the argument to be made that using the mothership as a call down this week instead of a permanent unit may be a better option for him. Having said that, I do think he's going to struggle regardless of what you play. The reality is the hero unit is going to be taking so much damage by the end of the game that he is going to be obliterating your army if you put him at the forefront of stuff as well. I had Alarak in D tier.
D tier. That is one word don't give prestigious. What do you think, though, Edwin Helm?
Yeah, it's not great this week for Alarak. I would personally recommend, if you want to try it, probably going for Ascendance, because then by the time the Ascendants have enough kills to take a lot of damage, hopefully you're just flinging out some Psionic Orbs, you have some Supplicants in front of them to tank the damage, and it doesn't reduce the damage that they deal. So once you've got maxed out Ascendants, 3 Psionic Orbs kill everything, and then you just, individually target down like the hybrid behemoths or whatever that might be left. So, but that's still, that's you're playing a risky game. If they do get caught, they're going to die very quickly, even with the extra shield stacks. So, yeah, I had him in D tier as well.
Oh, wow. It's a unanimous D tier. Well, I guess you two agree on D tier. Let's put Alarak in D tier. No prestige recommendation because D tier is considered bad. Arcturus, where do we have him?
Arcturus is really good this week. He has bunker spam. He has a lot of very small units that do a lot, especially with P3. It's basically like, okay, if you somehow manage to get more than 1 kill, I'm impressed, and now you'll die.
This is
and blow everything up
inhumane
for me, which I was going to have you do anyways. So it doesn't really matter that you get stacks of Naughty List. With most of his units, just skip the Royal Guard mostly this week and bunker spam, and you'll do great. So I had him in S tier.
S tier. What do you think, Joni?
Yes, completely agreed. Bunker spam and running P3 troopers around and effectively treating them like banelings is going to be the way to go. I had Arcturus in S tier as well.
Okay. Arcturus goes in S tier. Prestige recommendation, third one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. Moving on to someone who is actually he could be. What do you think about Artanis?
Artanis is not bad this week. He's an army commander, which always helps. He does, however, have some slight letdowns. His army is one that critical mass within his army really protects it, in terms of it is one whereby you want to be putting out more damage than you're taking and not having to replace units, much more so than, for instance, a P3 Mensk, where you are constantly replenishing your army because it's cheap enough to do so. So Artanis suffers a little bit in that respect. There are also some gift exchange gifts that Amon can get, which are going to come as a real problem. Killbots being one of them. The killbot that spawns, I can't remember the exact time cutoff, but I think it's about 10 minutes. It's sort of halfway through-ish. Is a 50 kill killbot.
Yes,
That is a massive. Yeah, it's a massive problem for a Protoss commander. I mean, even the 30 kill killbot that spawns earlier is still a big problem for a Protoss commander. Artanis is not going to have a great time even with the spawned banelings. I think it's 100 of them is the maximum stack you can get of them, and that running at an Artanis army, again, is just such a problem. So he is an army-based commander, in theory should be great, however, he does have some issues. I suspect that P3 is probably still the one you want to play in order that you can use your cooldowns to pack a little bit more punch. I had him in B tier.
B tier. That's not bad either. Which is exactly what you said. What do you think, Edmund?
Yeah, he's definitely not bad this week. I think I'm less worried about the Banelings and Scourge because you just P3 drop some Archons on them, and that should soak up most, if not all, of the Banelings.
Even
and
just shield
only
overcharge.
Dealing with 1, maybe 2.
Yeah,
shield overcharge. You've got solutions.
Yeah.
The real problem is killbots because you shield overcharge, it doesn't actually help. So,
yeah.
I guess you just kind of want to be producing probes the entire game as
even shrink wave to an extent can be a problem for Artanis.
Yes, that's true. It only being a minute, it's like, well, maybe you just have to give up a shuttle wave or something. You do have the leeway to do that unless it happens like during the final wave. But it's a little tough for him. So I had him in A tier. It wasn't S tier, but I could see B tier. He's not. It's the killbots really. It's like, if you get one killbot, maybe you survive. If you get the 50 bot or the 50 kill killbot or 2 killbots or something like that,
you scream for your ally.
I don't know. yeah. Hopefully you have it. It's like it is dependent on like if he has any Zerg ally, you're probably fine. But you can't rely on that. So I had him in A, but I'm fine with B.
Fine with B. All right, Artanis goes in B. Dehaka, where do we have him? Oh wait, Prestige, third one. Dehaka, where do we have him?
Dehaka is good. Creeper hosts don't particularly care about naughty list. Your main problem is your big upfront punchy, Dehaka, and the pack leaders, I believe, as well, are going to have more trouble this week, but they'll still do enough that I think you're going to be cruising. Killbots could be an issue if you get it too early, but you can just send creeper hosts towards it, and that should deal with it pretty well. I don't think he's perfect, so I only had him in A tier, but he's pretty good.
Wow, that's unbelievable. Not that bad. What do you think, Joni?
I had pretty similar views, actually. The one thing that I could not remember, CTG, you may be able to educate me here because this may inform my choice, actually, is whether the pack leaders lose their naughty list stacks when they despawn. I think they do, but I can't remember.
I don't have it up the top of my head, but I don't think it's relevant. They are temporary units anyway. But I guess it could.
Yeah,
be.
So
you're taking 100% more damage, it does matter.
For Gleb,
yeah. So for me,
Mervar, I don't think Mervar gets a lot of kills. It's the exploding locusts mostly that get the kills. The Krunz thing is just letting the units hit themselves. So yeah, maybe Glevig will be impacted. Yeah, maybe Glevig.
Yeah, it was mainly Glevig that I was thinking about. Like, Dacron's so chonky that he is still going to get some work done. I sort of on that basis, I saw Dehaka pretty much once again, really, as a very direct equivalency of Abathur, pretty much. I think he plays very similarly. I think he has, where there is slightly less mobility this time round is obviously Abathur's swarm hosts are able to deep tunnel with P2, which does make a massive difference, I think, in terms of getting the gifts in. And particularly Dehaka himself, when he's naughty listed, is going to go down very, very quickly, especially in the early game. So I had Dehaka from S to A tier, but I'm certainly not going to lose sleep about him being in A tier.
Yeah, because that's where you had him. You're both okay with A? Let's put Dehaka in A. Prestige-wise, second one? Or do you want to do no prestige so you're not as impacted by naughty list on the pack leaders? So you can just summon one
I think
after the other.
I think by and large the pack leaders are A, chunky enough, and B, hit hard enough that they will get the job done. I think the main thing for me with these mutators is that if you get the wrong rolls at the wrong time and Amon picking up the wrong gifts at the wrong time, you can end up being assaulted by, towards the end of the game, some pretty punchy waves of enemies, which in all likelihood with Dehaka, your creeper hosts are not going to be necessarily in position to deal with appropriately, particularly if you've got shuttle waves coming in at the same time, etc. So I think the pack leaders on P2, even Glevig with full stacks of naughty list, hit hard enough that they will get done what they need to prior to like dying, basically. That's my view on it.
All right. So that's second prestige still. Okay, moving on. Fenix, where do we have him?
The good thing with Fenix is that he can, although he typically isn't, be played as an army commander. So this week, I think that P1 or P3 are pretty good options, actually. I think P2, you probably don't want to play because the shells don't... Say again, sorry.
But I did.
Well, I mean, this is, as we both know, CTG, this is, memeing on the commanders and making the best choices is not always the same thing. But, you know, because the shells don't lose naughty list when they sort of switch, you're not going to want to use P2 in essence. For all of that being said, Fenix plays pretty well. You probably are going to want to go into some form of mass carrier type conflagration at some point. But he plays well. He's got decent units, particularly in the early game, to back him up. If you're using P1, you do always have that get out clause of dropping the Dragoon suit and just going nuclear on whatever area it's played in. I felt Fenix did pretty well this week. I had him in A tier.
A tier. What do you think, Edpenham?
Yeah, I think he's pretty good this week. I was also thinking, the eventual goal is probably mass carrier if you're not going P2, which I personally wouldn't recommend, but apparently you can. But I think he's I had him in B tier with the carrier strategy, but I guess I'm okay with A.
Okay, I am okay with A as well. Let's put Fenix in A tier. Third prestige or first prestige?
Apparently, any one of the three.
Yeah.
All right.
I think the main argument for P3 is probably trying to shore up a little bit more against killbots. I think in reality, probably 1, 3, even 0, just not 2, basically.
Not 2. Okay, that's fine. Han and Horner, where do we have them?
Han and Horner, the good side is that they have a lot of very cheap units that they can lose, and they even have salvage, so that's pretty nice for them. But the ramp up can be a little tough, and they can't really rely on any of their having the big power units behind, like you tend to want to add in to like help with the final waves and things like that, like battle cruisers and whatnot. You could kind of, I guess, wait to add them in until right at the last wave so they don't build up stacks. But any Horner units are going to be pretty bad this week generally. So you're going to be very heavily reliant on Reapers, which do have anti-air, but it is on a cooldown. So it's okay. It's not bad, but it's not great. I had them in C tier.
C tier. What do you think, Joni?
Yes, agreed. It is that difficulty of getting to critical mass, then maintaining it, and then doing enough, regardless of everything else going on around you, to do all the jobs that you need to at the same time. That is not to mention stuff like your galleons getting naughty list stacks eventually, losing, playing P1 and losing like 2 or 3 galleons can be pretty crippling to your ability to maintain critical mass in the first place. The top bars are useful as always, but not enough sort of to sustain and really make up for that lack of punch, as ET described. I didn't think they were quite so bad. I had them sort of B to C tier. I suppose I did think they were that bad in that case. I was slightly more optimistic about their top end. But yeah, B to C tier.
All right, both of you are okay with C. That's where they go. C tier for Hot and Horner. Listener Alarak tier. Moving on, Karax. Where do we have him?
Karax is very good. As per usual, the Spear of Adun does not build up naughty list stacks, which is great. Playing entirely a static based approach on this, I think personally is the way to go. Again, not enabling sort of that build up on units. Where Karax, I think, does better than, I was about to say, some of the other static based commanders, let's be very clear, Swann, is that he can use observers and the Spear of Adun to claim the gifts, which gives him that level of sort of, in inverted commas, I guess, mobility out on the map, which I think is needed. If you go for that entirely static approach, you can end up getting overwhelmed. Not that difficult to do so either. As mentioned previously, stuff like overcharged shuttles, they really do a huge amount of damage. And unless they go down very, very quickly indeed, they are going to tear pretty big chunks out of your static. So my thing, yeah, they do a shocking amount of damage. My thing with Karax would be probably to play P3. I do think P1 is super viable. However, I think to maximise your ability to claim those gifts, play P3, take a static-based approach, and get observers out on the map very quickly in order to claim those gifts. I had him S to A tier. I don't think he is a complete given for S tier this week.
Okay. What do you think, Edmund Home?
I think he is a complete given for S tier this week. I mean, Space Lasers are really good. Spear of Adun does not get stacks, and cannons do get stacks, I believe, but it doesn't matter too much. You'll have lots of money because you're only defending 3 spots. So, yeah, I had him in S tier.
S tier. What do you think about S tier?
So, I mean, I have got him S to A. The only thing I'm going to say is killbots.
That's also true. Unity barrier is really bad for killbots. That being said, ally, help! You can always do that.
I think that is the reality to it. Is that worst case scenario, and you get a 50 kill killbot spawn late in the game, pull your entire mineral line and just feed it. You should have enough static up by that point that you can deal with pretty much everything else. So for any other commander, I would probably say that would put him down a tier. But because his static is simply so strong, I think he's probably going to be okay anyway.
Okay. Unless your ally is a no prestige Artanis, then killbots will be fun! As fun as S tier. All right. Prestige-wise, third one. Moving on. Kerrigan. Where do we have him?
Kerrigan typically relies quite heavily on Kerrigan, which is bad here, but you can kind of use her for the very early game, and then, every 60 seconds you can, pop a mobilization wave when it comes off cooldown, which is still good. And then I would say you're probably wanting to just go Mass Hydralisk. I was even thinking probably maybe P1 Mass Hydra. You can get your creep out in front of the shuttle bays pretty easily, which is nice. You're not. That's the big problem with P1 is it's like I don't. What does it matter if my creep super buffs me? I can't get creep where I need it. But here you can. So you could still go like P3 or P0. I'd say you definitely don't want to go P2 because again, Kerrigan is basically a glorified immobilization wave this week. But yeah, I think I'd probably go P1, Mass Hydra, some lurkers in there on the creep, and you should do pretty well because, again, spread out over the kills. But it's still not. It's good for Kerrigan, but it's not good in the grand scheme of things, in my opinion. So I had her in C tier.
Grand scheme of things, Kerrigan C tier. Jody, what do you think?
Yes, Kerrigan's army is classically not very good, and Kerrigan, in general terms, is not very good against air. And this is sort of the perfect storm for her in terms of having to rely on her army against air stuff, regardless actually of whether you've rolled an air comp or not. Quite possibly in this instance, I was going to say worse if you don't roll an air comp because then you're having to deal with both, but that actually is simply not the case. She is dreadful against air. So dreadful. I totally agree with ET. I totally agree with ET. Use Kerrigan as a mobile nuke effectively. Hide her the rest of the time because she will die. Probably want to play. I had P0, but I absolutely see why P1 would be very viable. My only concern with that is you lose the ability to hide Kerrigan inside of Omega Worms. But you are going to be relying much more heavily on her army this week, so potentially buffing that is a better idea. I wasn't very optimistic about her. This is probably telling of my lack of mechanical skill, but I had her in D tier.
D tier. What do you think at home?
I don't know. I don't think you need to worry about hiding Kerrigan in the Omega Worms. You just have her behind your army. She is affected by Malignant Creep, so she moves plenty fast to get in and out, especially with Leap, like you'll have with P1. I don't know. I don't think she's nearly as bad as Alarak. Like Alarak does not. I guess you have Mass Slayer as Alarak, but you have the passive health regen for the Hydras. You have the Lurkers, and Hydras are not bad against air. They're just not great. But again, C isn't, great. It's just not bad. So I don't know. I'd have her in C tier personally.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy with that. I think the P1 buffs of Malignant Creep are not to be underestimated. Actually, they do a lot, and yeah, there is a special place on the tier list reserved for Alarak this week, I suspect. So happy with C tier.
Okay, I'm also happy with C tier. Let's put Kerrigan in C tier. Moving on. Nova, where do we have him?
Nova is an interesting one because despite the fact she is at face value, she ought to be sort of F tier on face value this week because she effectively plays as a hero unit with effectively sort of lightweight hero units supporting her. She ought to be completely unplayable this week. She does, however, have some distinct advantages which make life a little bit sort of easier for her, give her that little bit quality of life. Playing P3 will significantly improve your experience because Nova herself can effectively cut around the map and do stuff without being bothered too much. You also then have Griffin Airstrike, Spider Mines, Raven Turrets, all of these sort of quite nice things that will enhance your ability to do things. That's all the positives. When you look at the negatives, however, you get Killbots, Banes and Scourge. Admittedly, Griffin Airstrike may be able to do a little bit about that, but they do move quite quickly. Even the big hybrid waves, the overcharged shuttles, etc., can present massive issues. So a lot of the gift exchange stuff that Amon's going to pick up can just absolutely sort of wipe you out. I'm I'm not sure whether I would put her in C or D tier, whether she is as bad as Alarak or whether she has some coping strategies which make her slightly easier to play. I think the reality to it is if you're looking to carry your ally this week, you're going to have a very, very hard time. I had her C to D tier.
C to D, what do you think, Edmund Home?
Yeah. Side note: Kerrigan's in the wrong tier, but
No, she's not.
for Nova, Nova to me feels like a less blonde Kerrigan this week, right? Her hero unit doesn't really have too much that's helpful. Like you could, I guess, spam snipe if you can manage to stay undetected. You can do the infiltration drone, but like you don't get combat suit really this week. I mean, I guess you could if you really hate yourself, but I wouldn't recommend it. And she doesn't have like malignant creep hydras. She doesn't have anything like that. A lot of the stuff that Johnny listed as like saving graces as well, like spider mines and raven turrets. It's like, well, you know you're going to be fighting some air units, and if you get an actual air comp, then those don't do anything. And yeah, she has turrets, but her turrets kind of suck.
So you just suck.
So I had her as just kind of a worse Kerrigan in my mind, so I did have her in D tier.
Okay, D tier. I guess you also had her in D tier, Joni?
Yes, C to D, yeah.
All right. So Nova goes in D tier. No prestige recommendation because D tier is considered bad. Raynor, where do we have him?
Raynor is all right this week. He has bunkers like Minsk, and he has marine units which are very similar to Minsk's, but the comparisons stop there. You don't have nukes attached to your marines, which
Very
is
sad.
a little unfortunate. And most of your other units are a little beefier and a little less useful by that metric. You're basically just going mass bio, I'd say. Hyperion will be a little bit helpful against some of the air, like needing mobility, but it's okay. It's surprisingly good. He's above a lot of heroes or a lot of commanders I wouldn't, at least for me, that I wouldn't expect to see him above most of the time. So, there's that. I had him in B tier.
B tier. What do you think, Joni?
Yes, I think the most viable strategy is to play mass bio this week with Raynor. I think it can probably be done with P1, or if you want to be bunkering up more, P0, probably completely viable here. That's kind of it, really. It's not, it's quite a one-dimensional strategy with Raynor this week. I think you probably are going to encounter some problems if you get the wrong gift exchange stuff from Amon.
Yes.
But certainly Naughty List being an Naughty List being an army-based commander, not so much of a difficulty. Stuff like the burrowed mines are going to cause Raynor issues moving around the map just due to the sheer volume of scans that you're going to need to use in order to actually facilitate that movement. So not perfect by any means, but also better than normal, more viable than normal. I had him B tier as well.
Sure, both of you have him B tier. None of you mentioned how Raynor's one of the best commanders to get everything is free for. If you get that in the early game, and you were able to get yourself 15 extra command centers to start, who cares about all the scans, right? Anyway, B tier is still pretty good. That is where Raynor goes. Let's see, will Stetboy also be really good? What do you think?
Stetboy's better than one might assume. He is obviously quite commander reliant. P2 Super Gary, even with like full Naughty List stacks, is still pretty good. Multiple Egorbs still pack a punch. The advantage that Stetmann has is that between the Stetalites and his army, his army's really good. Whether it's decent Ling support for mass Hydra or something along those lines, Corruptors are very good as well for dealing with anti-air. Stetmann's got a seriously wide variety of options that can absolutely hold the fort down whilst Super Gary is being revived. So I think he's still very, very viable this week. I had him in A tier.
A tier. What do you think, Edmund?
Yeah, I think he's quite good. The Lings, don't care about Naughty List mostly. One, because there's so many of them, and two, because they cap damage to 10 regardless. So obviously they're going to make Marines more dangerous to them, but that doesn't matter too terribly much. It does cap it out, right? At most, they can take 10 damage regardless. Then they can kind of do the tanking for your Hydras, for your Lurkers, for Gary. Gary, yeah, he's going to be taking a ton of damage. You can't have him tank like you normally would as much, but you can just throw out your 2 Igor spells into the enemy wave and then pull back and let your army kind of deal with it. You can still do overcharges, you can still do recalls, so he still has all of his utility belt. He just can't do like the upfront tanking as much. Dang it. So
Letter
A.
A. Okay. Both of you had an A?
Yes.
Okay, that's where he goes. Letter A. Not S. Stukov. Where do we have him?
Stukov does not care about the naughty list at all because mass bunker. So that much is nice. Beyond that, the gift exchange, there's not a ton of problems with gift exchange for him. Like Baneling Scourge, you don't really care about. Hidden threats, you don't care too much about. The temporary mutators, there's a couple, I guess, like we move unseen. That could be a bit of a pain if you don't have any brood queens, but just build some brood queens. Beyond that, yeah, I mean, kill bots, no problem. Overcharge shuttles, who cares? Anything like that. Shrink wave, I guess, is like the only one that might cause him trouble, but that's only for 60 seconds. So I think it's going to be a pretty easy week for Stukov, largely. You know, you have to be intentional about actually going and collecting the gifts because you don't want to just give that for free. So I know a lot of P3, you do kind of maybe have to box your army a little bit. Maybe even not, depending on when they spawn. But yeah, that's the one thing to keep in mind. I think he's quite good. I had him in S.
Okay. What do you think, Joni?
Yes, I totally agree. This is another Stukov P3 point-and-click adventure. Exactly as ET said, I think potentially worth, whilst you are ramping up to that critical mass, being quite intentional about collecting gifts. If you get an unlucky spawn early in the game, that can just be your lot, pretty much, whilst you're ramping. Other than that, Stukov has a pretty easy time. S tier.
Yeah. I think an underrated part of Stukov, and I guess Raynor, both of them are pretty good, no doubt, but the first gift can be a bit difficult to reach for both of them, depending on how you play. Raynor can get a Marine out to basically stall the capture of the first gift until the Duskwings are ready. Stukov, I'm not sure how he does stall the capture until the Apocalypse is ready. Maybe send an Overdude? That will get sniped though, pretty easily. Maybe send a few Infested? They will get destroyed pretty easily. And you also have to worry about Wave 1. How do you stop the first gift from getting Amon Stukov?
I'm not sure that necessarily stopping the first gift, bearing in mind that whatever comes from it, regardless of whether it sends units your way or shuttles, overpower shuttles or whatever, I'm not 100% convinced there is a massive necessity to deal with it. Particularly not if you are waiting for the Apocalypse cooldown, whatever comes out of that gift, like deal with it at home. Would kind of be my thinking, rather than trying to spend additional resources simply on a one-off gift.
I guess that's true. There is a risk that you get hybrid in the first gift, but I guess it's also a tiny chance. And you can always scream for your ally. Most allies this week will have an option to claim the first gift, just not Stukov, I guess. Anyway,
yeah, an important thing to remember with gift exchange is that it is like a dopamine hit when you get the gift, so your ally will actually deal with it, unlike most mutators where they're like, that's not fun. Gift exchange is fun, so all they're gonna do is like tunnel vision on it like a monkey, So
I
you
wish
can
it had.
probably rely on them.
I wish I had the same allies as you did at Eppenholm. My allies just right click on the bonus and lock and load. They don't care about gifts.
Fair enough.
My
Fair
Donnie.
enough. Different experiences, I guess.
Yeah. I guess I don't know why. Anyway, Stukov goes in S tier. 3rd prestige. Moving on. Swann. Where do we have him?
Swann, as is often the case, is bad Karax this week, in my opinion. He plays very, very similarly. I think there is a strong argument to be made for playing P2. I also suspect there is a slightly less strong argument to be made for playing P0 and having more top bar usage. Getting to gifts and claiming them is going to be more difficult with him. Floating factories is probably going to be the way to do it, particularly as we progress into the later game. Having said that, doing it in the early game is going to be more of a nuisance. Not totally impossible, and again, because of his use of static, not necessarily the end of the world. However, certainly not as easy as Karax. I had Swann in A tier, yeah, pretty much for that reason. That and killbots, overcharged shuttles are going to do a lot of damage. There are certain things he doesn't deal with that well due to use of static.
Okay. What do you think, Eppenholm?
Yeah, I largely agree with Johnny here. I think that obviously you can make SCVs, make sure to turn off auto repair for the killbots if you need to do that. And then obviously I can just repair your turrets in the meantime. Maybe some Wraith mix-in would be good as well for the gifts if you have the extra resources. I do find with Swann, I tend to I can build enough turrets to cover everything, but unlike Karax, it's like Karax, I'm like 10 minutes in, I'm like, well, now I'm kind of just adding cannons for the fun of it. Whereas Swann, you're like 20 minutes in, you're like, I'm still adding turrets because I need them.
Kind of.
More so than Karax, at least. Yeah, I had him in A tier as well.
A tier. Okay, so it's a unanimous A tier. That's where he goes. Prestige-wise, 2nd one?
I think probably yes.
Yeah, I'd say so. Because again, you're only making Wraiths, if anything, and you do not need extra gas for Wraiths, or you have extra gas for Wraiths, I should say. So,
moving on.
Downside.
Tychus. Where do we have him?
Tychus is in a lot of pain this week, unusually, because he cares a lot about Naughty List. As it happens, he has approximately 5 combat units, and I guess you could make turrets, but his suck. So, not a great week for Tychus. He is good at gift exchange generally. There's nothing we're going to see from gift exchange where we're like, uh-oh, necessarily. But beyond that, it's a rough time for him. So I had him in D tier. I could see C tier as well, but I had him in D. Once you get a certain amount of Naughty List stacks, it's who cares about Lone Wolf debuff or buff, so.
Yeah. So what do you think, Joni?
Yeah. I think playing P2, despite the fact he's not going to be high enough to give a proper recommendation, I do think playing P2 is still the correct thing to do here. You need those chonky heroes to survive at all with the Naughty List debuffs. There are so many of the gifts that just cause him exquisite agony, however.
Exquisite agony.
I was sort of, during testing of this, I was genuinely amazed at how quickly an overcharged shuttle wave killed Tychus with a full Naughty List stack. I mean, it is instantaneous. So
getting spanked like the naughty boy he is.
it really was. It was a proper spanking. He's got a couple of coping mechanisms. Sirius's turrets are still very, very good. Obviously, with the anti-air upgrade, they're even better. The name of the outlaw has left my brain, but the ghost. No, the
Vega?
ghost that he has. Vega, that's the badger. Vega's very good at capturing enemy units. Is pretty useful. having said all of that, exactly like ET said, he wasn't even as good as I wanted him to be this week. I had him C to D tier, but I think in reality, probably D tier.
All right, unanimous D tier. Tychus, how the mighty have fallen, goes to D tier. Moving on, Vorazun, where do we have him?
Vorazun is good in the sense that she has some nice, hard-hitting, free, temporary units in terms of the Shadow Guard, which do loads of damage, which don't accrue Naughty List stacks in any meaningful manner, and that, when combined with Time Stop, are really, really good at clearing out the map, dealing
Her one
with
prestige.
gift exchange, etc. Yeah, her one prestige. We do encounter the classic Vorazun rub of the fact that regardless really of the comp you end up playing against, is that this map requires a significant amount of anti-air, which is not going to make her life easy. I think Corsairs are probably the answer here. I suspect there's an argument to be made for playing a significant amount of her static instead, despite the fact it's vanilla cannons. She's still not going to have a great time, though, against the actual map itself. You then throw everything else into the mix also, and she'll deal with some of it really well, and some of it's going to cause her potentially just sort of game over status, I suspect. So I think she's a difficult one to rank this week. I had her somewhere between B and C tier, probably erring towards C tier.
That's fair. What do you think, Edwin Home?
Yeah, if I had my way, she'd be E tier, but I know I'm not the average Vorazun enjoyer, so that's okay. I think she's all right. You do have time stop, which helps. Your anti-air isn't horrible, but it's not great, especially against the shuttles, because there's no way they're going to clump up unless you like gravity well them. So I think she's about C tier.
C tier. Okay, that's fair. That also means we get to recommend her one prestige, the third one. So, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. Zagara, where do we have him?
Zagara doesn't care about the naughty list really at all. Well, unless you're playing as not P1, but I would recommend P1 this week. You have Scourge to take care of the shuttles super easily. You have Banelinks to take care of literally everything else very easily. So it's a breezy time. I don't think you're going to have much problem with any of the naughty lists or the gift exchange as well. So it should be pretty straightforward. I had her in S tier.
S tier. What do you think, Joni?
Yes, it's worth noting that with Zagara P1, which I think is what you're going to want to play here, because she's not affected by Naughty List, but also because it's only every third gift that Amon's going to get if you're playing it sort of with a degree of competence, coupled with the fact that not all of the gifts that Amon gets are going to have too much of a radical impact on you, that she doesn't really run out of steam. That's the key thing with Zagara P1 and recommending it, that occasionally it can run out of steam on certain mutators. This one, I personally didn't find that to be the case, so I have her in S tier.
Okay. Zagara S tier. Prestige-wise, first one?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Zeratul, where do we have him?
Zeratul is good. My suggestion would be to play P2 and use Zeratul, the unit, to collect artifact pieces and then hide effectively. Cannons are good, as always. My hesitation towards recommending him for S tier is, as with a lot of the Protoss commanders, and I appreciate that we've put Karax in S tier, I feel that there are several of Amon's gifts which can do quite significant, like can cause quite significant problems to cannons specifically. I'm thinking sort of overcharged shuttles. The shade projections are good. They do have advantages in the sense they don't accumulate like stacks at all. I'm hesitant to put him in S tier, but I'm also open to hearing an argument for him to be an S tier. So I've got him S2A.
Okay. What do you think, Edmund?
Yeah, I had him in S tier. I think cannon projection really good. You can just pump probes as well because you're going to have more than enough cannons, so you can just have a bank of probes if you need it for the killbots, which is the one real problem, or yell for your ally, like we've said. Beyond that, there's not really anything that's going to give him too much trouble. I don't think the overcharging matters too much. The temporary mutators don't matter too much as well, because like going nuclear, you're just projecting the cannons again, so it's not a huge deal. I think he's very good this week. You do lose out on Zeratul himself, but you can kind of use him for the first shuttle wave and then just collect artifacts, which is when you're really going to need him. And then beyond that, you've got infinity cannons. You have your other top bars. Demote guy is going to be pretty great here. And the legendary legion is going to be very good as well. And then whatever you choose, I would probably recommend the Tesseract monoliths, obviously, but you can go with whatever you want to do. I had him in S tier.
S tier. So, prestige-wise, you want the second one?
I would say so.
All right. Plus, another thing about Zeratul is he's probably one of the, alongside Raynor and Stukov, one of the best recipients of everything is free. Just unlimited cannons. Unlimited. Truly. You can even start feeding the cannons to the killbots if you get that many. Oh wait, do we have a double S this week?
No, not in my view.
Not in your view. Not in my view either, but also not in your view. Who's top of S tier?
I think Zagara, purely because she doesn't have the same ramp that Stukov does.
Okay. Then?
I was thinking Arcturus. I think, I'd probably have Arcturus Zagara at the top personally.
Why Arcturus?
Because there is the ramp of Stukov. Your units are cheap, so you're not really worried about killbots, and you have nukes. You basically, P3's practically built for this mutation in my mind. Just nuke everything. It's kind of how you normally would play this out with P3. But if you think Zagara is better, I could see that as well. I do think they're probably the two best. I think he's better than Stukov because you don't have the ramp. You're not going to have that potential trouble with the first gift. So,
what do you think? What do you think, Tony?
I think my only concerns with Mengsk would be, and appreciating these are quite niche scenarios, but would be a 50 kill bot near the end. He just doesn't replenish his army quite as fast as Zagara. And I fully appreciate that we really are splitting hairs here. And then potentially a temporary mutator that caused problems to his bunkers would be my only other consideration. But we are really splitting hairs at that point. They're both extremely good. I'm perfectly happy with whichever order we see fit, because Zagara has her own potential issues if not played conservatively as well. So I'm very happy with that as well. They're both very strong.
Okay. So I'll just leave it as is, because it seems to be a tie. Who's third?
I think Stukov.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Then?
Karax.
And then I think probably Abathur at the bottom. And then, yeah.
All right. Who's top of A?
Probably Stetmann.
Have you guys tried? Have you guys tried playing Stetboy? But instead of capturing or letting Amon capture gifts, he just drop a Stetlight over the gift, so that it never gets captured by either one. Amon sends his goons, but they never capture it because there's a stat light over it. They can shoot it over and over, but it's still there. So nobody ever claims a gift. So you effectively remove gift exchange, and it's just naughty list.
Double S.
Double
Yeah.
No, I'm
S.
just joking. But I think, yeah, if you use that, then definitely top of A.
Who's
Yeah,
second at A?
happy with that. I think Dehaka, and then
Alright.
Swann, and then Fenix.
All right, top of B.
Probably Artanis.
Oh, I
Artanis.
was going to go the other way. I was going to go the other way purely based on bunkers and replaceability of army.
Yeah, I guess Killbot's actually. I'd
You're
probably
less
flip
screwed
it.
against
Killbots,
Killbots.
yeah.
Killbot.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, Raynor above Artanis, I
It's
guess.
not very frequently that we see Raynor not 1 but 2 tiers above Tychus. My Donnie.
Yeah.
Who's
Might
top
be
of
the only
C?
time. I don't know. I think I'm fine with C how it is, honestly.
Okay. Who's top of D?
Yeah. I think probably
Nova.
Tychus. I think probably although Tychus is as badly affected as any of these, he's still significantly easier to play.
I got a comment earlier this week, and by the way, I still love your comments. No matter what you say, any comment I get brightens up my day. Anytime I see the notification on my phone, when I'm on my commute or when I'm chilling at home, I see a comment, read it, it brightens my day. So please, guys, keep sending comments. I really I even got a comment where they saying I like trains. I'm like, I like trains too. We need more trains in the Philippines and fewer private cars. I agree with the comment so hard. So hard. That's what she said. Anyway, who's second in D tier?
You never told us what the comment you got was.
I like trains. Oh, right. The other one. I got a comment the other day saying that Tychus second prestige is not good because you can't perfectly micro 5 heroes at the same time, and that's not why he's good. It's good because you don't need to micro 5 guys at once. Just send them in any direction, and generally they'll win. Boy, Donnie. Anyway.
Yep.
Who's second in D tier?
I'd say Nova.
Nova.
I almost
Yeah, I
think
think-
Nova is still better than Tychus because, as mentioned, Nova at
Airstrike?
least has some things that get past
Oh yeah.
the problems you're having with spider mines and turrets and things
The
like
super
that. Obviously,
cloak.
her turrets are about as bad as Tychus's, but super cloak and spider mines, airstrike, the nuke. Like Tychus has basically one thing, and that's Odin nuke that doesn't care about the mutator, and then the Odin probably promptly dies after nuking. So
So
I
you think
would
Nova's better?
still argue for Nova above Tychus.
Like this?
See, I think Tychus cares less about the mutator in general terms, and there is so much more margin for error with him than with Nova. But it is D tier. So
It is D
if-
tier.
I think if you Alarak's definitely at the bottom of it, and if you choose to play either of the other two, then your ally's probably not going to thank you unless you are superb.
True. All right, we'll just
I'm fine.
leave it as it is.
I think they're very similar. So
Yeah. Nova is blonder, so let's have her on top. Blonder than
Sure.
Tychus. Sure. Yeah. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for watching. If you have an idea for it, also please leave it in a comment. I will see you guys next time.